to our lunchtime seminar series. Our particular talk today is a joint collaboration between the Center for Eurasian Russian European Studies and the Department of Slavic Languages. Today we will have Dr. Elena Boudovskaia. She speaking about her dialectological expedition this past summer to 3 villages in Zakarpats'ka oblast in the Ukraine. Dr. Elena Boudovskaia has her Bachelor of Science in Structural Linguistics from Moscow State University. She got an MA and a PhD in Slavic Linguistics from UCLA. She has taught Russian at UCLA, Columbia University, Vassar College, and she came to us at Georgetown in 2011. Her research interests are Slavic dialects in historical perspective, and in particular Croatian and Ukrainian. And she also has researched traditional and contemporary Slavic folklore.
So, the presentation's name, Ethnographic, Linguistic, and Language Policy, it is accurate but not quite. What I'm going to talk about is my personal experience, because I was in the area for a couple of times in the Soviet period, and I was there a couple of times in recent years, in 2011 and 12. And my main, what I was doing mainly is collecting the samples of the dialect, but I also observed the life of people and what changes and how it works, and that's what about I'll be talking, not about governmental policies itself, but rather what happens to them in real villages. So, and also about what changed at contemporary time compared to the Soviet era. So basically, Transcarpathia is this is a typical landscape. It's in the mountains, and here it is on the map. This is Ukraine. It is the westernmost part of it, and it's also very much to the south. So. It is the only part of Ukraine that borders on 4 foreign countries. Here is the border with Poland, here with Slovakia, here with Hungary, and here with Romania. So, and basically this part of land didn't belong to Ukraine or to the Soviet Union until 1945, but officially 46. In 1945, the Soviet troops going west, pursuing the Nazi Germany, they liberated this piece of land, and later there was a referendum that, according to this, this land became a part of the Soviet Ukraine. So since that time, it's in the Soviet Ukraine, but the ties connecting it. Rather, the things that disconnected from Soviet Ukraine are much more ancient. This part of land belonged to Hungary since the 10th century, since the Hungarians came out of Pannonia. Here is Hungary, and it was a part of Hungary all along. So the population there is mostly Slavic. There are about 1,200,000 people, out of them about 150,000 inhabitants, 150,000 Romanians, and a lot of other smaller nations like Roma and Slovaks, and even some Germans that haven't moved to Germany. But the main population is Slavic, so it's about 800,000, and they lived here since ancient times, and they were kind of disconnected from mainland Ukraine, because here is the mountain range, and there are mountain passes, 2 or 3, and through them people were coming in to search for land and places to live, because the land here, especially in the valleys, are very rich. But there was no movement of population back there. So it was more or less isolated from the mainland, and the people who came, they assimilated real quick. So according to the census of 2001, 80% of population are Ukrainians. According to language data, if we take, I don't have a language map here, but if we take any linguistic acts, a lot of lines will be going exactly on the mountain ridge or a bit to the north of it. So the language is very, very different from mainland Ukrainian. And it's different to the extent that people from Kiev do not understand transcarpathians without translation. The people from Transcarpathia understand the Kievans only because the language of the school and the TV and mass media is Ukrainian. So they grow up speaking two languages, basically. Basically, when there is a situation of the lack of mutual understanding, it is rather a situation between two different languages than between a language and its dialect. So according to linguistic criteria, the language that is spoken by the Slavic population of Transcarpathia is not Ukrainian. But as Weinreich said, a language is a dialect with an army and a navy. These people do not have an army and a navy, and so since 1945 they are being told that they are Ukrainians. That their language is Ukrainian, but it's really messed up by borrowings from so many contacts with other language speakers, like Poles and Hungarians and Slovaks. And basically, the contemporary people who grew up in the Soviet Ukraine, they do believe it, and they say we are Ukrainians. When you talk to elder people, okay, this is one of their villages in the mountains. And when you talk to people about what they call yourself and how they do things, I was collecting stories about how they did agriculture a long time ago, how they lived, what was their family life like, what was the education like long ago before the war or right after the war. And when asked directly what nationality are you, they would say we're Ukrainians. When in a story, when they are contrasting the way people did things, they go, the Jewish people do burials that way, the Romanians do burials that way, and we Russians do this way. So there is an old understanding that they're Russians, but the language and nationality policy, contemporary language and nationality policy, was effective to persuade them that they are Ukrainian. Though not all of them. This language that they are speaking there is similar to the language which is called a minority language, which is called Russian in several countries, in several neighboring countries. In Slovakia, there is a Russian minority, and they have Russian taught in schools and a couple of hours per week, Russian broadcast on TV and radio. In Hungary, there is a small Russian population. Moreover, in Yugoslavia, in Serbia, in the Republic of Vojvodina, there is a 15,000 Russian population who migrated there by invitation of the governor in 1750, around 1750. I don't remember the exact year. And they have their schools. The signs on the bus stops are in 5 languages, including Russian. So they have newspapers, they have TV, and there are 15,000 of them. In Transcarpathia, there is about 800,000 of them. But thanks to the successful language policy, they don't realize they're Russians, most of them. And there are people who wrote they were Russians in the census of 2001, but there were 0.8% of such people. Now there are a little more of them, and I met one of them in the village. The guy told me some interesting things about language and nationality policy. Basically, there are people who declare themselves Russians. They have the awakening national identity process going on, and they are trying different things from cultural autonomy to some of them have weird ideas of separating altogether and uniting with Hungary. And of course, the government doesn't like that at all, not even the idea of cultural autonomy. And a couple of years ago, the local government, the government of the oblast, of the district, of the region, decided on their anthem. And they decided to took the anthem, the song that was the anthem between the wars when they were in autonomous territory under the Czech rule. And the government of the district decided on this song to become their anthem, and it was such a, I even don't know what to say. Like, there were articles in newspapers where Kievan professors of Ukrainian told them, you are wrong, the Russian nation does not exist, to have an anthem is a move against the unity of our Ukraine, you are terribly wrong, you are like enemies of your people. So finally they subsided and they made another song. And they changed their anthem. So these are the national interests. But when I speak to people who, so when I speak to people like the informant of mine, she does say that they used to be Russians. When I talk to people who are more educated, like priests and even some school teachers, and this Russian patriot told me he was talking to high-ranking officials in the police and stuff, and they told him that, you know, we are Russians, but let's not talk about it. Okay? So that is something like that. And the young generation, they think that Ukrainians, though somehow the official Ukrainian language that is school is kind of hard for them. So, and the people who are working, they basically they couldn't care less because the language and identity is the least of their worries. Because the economical situation in the region it will be difficult as in the rest of Ukraine, and there are many other more pressing problems. So, for example, these guys are milking their sheep. They're herding sheep and goats belonging to other people. They milk all these huge herd there 3 times a day. They give the milk to their owners who come to make cheese out of it and to bring their cheese home. And can you imagine how difficult it is to do that 3 times a day for the whole summer? And generally, these people, the population is very hardworking, and their life conditions are, it is even hard for us who live in cities and take a shower every day and go to stores to buy food. It's hard for us to imagine how they live. So this is a piece of land belonging to one of my farmers, and she has there everything. Like this is cabbage, this is corn, this is beans. Further there is potatoes. You can see this plot. And this is hay, and she used the hay to keep a cow. And cow is milk and sour cream and cheese. And this way, she doesn't have to buy anything in the store because she doesn't have that much money. And the products is in the store, sometimes they are there, sometimes they are not. And we buy fresh produce throughout the year, not so there. This is another of my informants. She is taking care of the cows. she takes them every day to the pasture, and every evening she brings them home. And in the winter they eat hay, and you've seen on the previous slide the stacks of hay that people have to make, and it's hard work. They have to mow it, they have to dry it, turning it several times already so that it dries well. They have to put it together, bring it in carts or in cars to their home and store it somewhere, and then they have milk throughout from this is corn that they go to. The only thing they buy is grain for the chicken and the pigs, but sometimes they don't know even they don't have to do that, because if they have enough corn, they're fine. This is a yard of one of my colleagues, and you can't see, but here is a cow shed with 2 cows. Here is a pigsty, and this is kind of their refrigerator where they keep milk in huge jars so that it cools down and they can take sour cream. Not sour cream, would it the cream, yeah. So that they can take the cream, the layer of cream from it, and then make water with or make sour cream or whatever. So they put milk here. And here again you can see, but there is a whole bunch of beehives, so they have also their own hive. So, and they have chickens, and basically they can live for quite a long time without flying egg. But also these guys, these people are school teachers, and they do all this work early in the morning. They waking up at 5 and feeding and milking the cows, feeding the pigs, feeding the chickens, and then they go to work. And they work, and it's good that they're teachers because their job ends at say 2 or 3 p.m. And then they go home and do it again and again and again, and there is no weekends, because on weekends the cows also want to eat. And there are no vacations, because during vacations they make hay or they dig potatoes. So it's hard to imagine kind of life at Canada. And these are the vegetable patch. These are green beans, which they they make preserves. They put them in jars, and there are some berries like strawberries and raspberries, and they preserve all of that for the future too. Not only because they need it themselves. They have kids that may need it, and they have grandchildren that may need it. And also, when you are asking for some favor, it's good manners to leave a jar of homemade cheese or homemade jams. It is also kind of nice. But it all needs work, and it all needs standing. So it is hard work, and the question is why would you do that at all? Why don't you go to a town and find a job and live there and have no worries, have running water, have toilet and the store nearby? The traditional mentality is still there, and it's real strong. So it is good to have a good house. It is good to have all those things in the house, meat and milk and potatoes, and it is a village. People see each other. People see how every person works and what they do, and how much potatoes they collected and how good their hay is. And during short breaks between work, they not often watch the TV. What they do, they usually talk to each other. They talk, they gossip, they discuss how people are doing. And it is a shame to work on the land badly. Of course, it's a shame to be a drunkard and leave your land altogether. Though such people exist as well. But even be lazy and dig out your potatoes later than other people, it's a shame. And on the other hand, it is a good reputation if you do it all in a good time, in a good manner, if you have a lot. These people showed to you their teachers, but they are very much there in high esteem among other people in the village because they're not just teachers, they're not just how do you translate it? They're not just masters like lords sitting around doing nothing. They're also hardworking, and it's a good thing, and they are in high esteem. But it is a good thing is to have a big house and with furniture and stuff in the house. The problem is, after the Soviet Union collapsed, there are no more jobs anymore. During the Soviet times, there were some factories that did radios and furniture and textile and blah blah. Now almost everything has collapsed. Before it was possible to live in the village, take a bus in the morning to work and take a bus in the evening to go back. Not anymore. No more factories, no more infrastructure, no more buses. Well, there are buses, but it is a separate issue. Transportation buses. I don't know about the rest of Ukraine, but they've been waiting the whole day, and suddenly it turns out the buses were canceled. So it's not a possibility. There is no work. There's no possibility to go to work, and the roads are terrible. I'll show you in the next slide what the roads look like. Because some people do have cars, but if you go to the town to work and home every day, like how roads last long, even if it's a German car, which are considered austerities. So what to do? And people, the overpopulation was an issue in these times traditionally. There were more people than land. The land was, a lot of land is in the mountains, and it is hard to till, and the weather is bad, so it is not, the crop yields are small. So what they did, they traditionally went abroad to earn money. A lot of them went here and mined coal in Pennsylvania. Some of them returned with money and bought some land in Transcarpathia, which was, of course, confiscated when the Soviet Union came. Some of them didn't go back to Transcarpathia. They stayed in Pennsylvania, and I myself know a couple of people who are descendants of those people, and they can even name the place from where their grandfathers came. So there was a tradition to go to work and to come back mostly and bring the money and build a house. So what people do is exactly that right now. But the problem is it is very hard to get documents, it's very hard to get visas. What they mostly do, they do it illegally. A lot of men from these places who are good builders, they learn how to build from childhood. So they come together and they go to Hungary, to the Czech Republic, to Slovakia, and to Russia, as far as I know. And they work as builders, they earn money, they come back, they build their own houses. And nowadays women go abroad to earn money as well, and they go as caregiver for the elderly, and they go to, I know people whose relatives went to Spain, to Italy, to Russia also, but Spain and Italy are among the most popular, and I even know one lady whose relatives went to America and earned money and built a huge house, like the envy of the whole village. So that's what people do, but it's mostly illegally, and it is dangerous because they get robbed on the way, and of course they have no insurance, and if some accident happens in during the construction, they are just sent home if they can move, and all some of them die there, so it happens. It is dangerous, but they risk it because they just can't sit around, because it is not prestigious, it's bad. Like when you are sitting, if you are a man and you are strong and you are not a drunkard, you would go to the Czech Republic, you would earn a lot of money. When people at home are doing okay, you come back for 2 weeks, and that's your vacation, and you help them okay, and you come back. So this is an example of between two between two towns. Like, you can see, but there is no tarmac, and it's just dirt and stones and grass. And this is one of the houses that was built with the money earned in the Czech Republic. And the grass is not mown for hay. It is mown as it is here with a mowing machine, and there are flowers there. And this lady actually is holding the stuff in the village. She has two children, both of them have own stores, and she's like, she tells everyone in the village what to do, but look at her yard. Also, the grass is mown, there are flowers, there are flower pots, there are gnomes there. So here inside there's all water. And these two ladies, also my informants, her daughter is in Slovakia. She's legally. She's working on a factory that produces Playmobil toys, if you know what it is. And she sent money home. They built a huge house. Here it is. You can see it all. But like there are 8 rooms and furniture and the bathtub. There's no sewage, and everything from the bathtub flows directly in the river. And in the river, later in the river, children are swimming, and it's a clean mountain river. Yes. A lot of houses have the bathtub, but no sewage. But basically, it is prestigious to build a house. They build a house in what? Her children who are in Slovakia, her daughter who is in Slovakia has one daughter. The daughter is now the daughter has been staying with grandmother for 14 years, since the time they left there. And she visited her parents more or less regularly, like once a year for a couple of weeks, for 14 years. Now the girl is 18, she's studying in a college, and her major is education. She'll be a kindergarten teacher. And she'll not live in this house with 8 rooms and a lot of furniture. She'll go to work, she'll get married there, and that will be it. And so they are such a huge effort. Basically broken family, because the children away from parents for 15 years, it's not normal, at least for me. And for what? This house is going to stay empty. They will buy it, or someone will come and most relatives and then but that's how it is. It's impossible not to build a house. It's like you should. That's the goal of your life. And the church issues. Again, in 1945, when the Soviet Union so the people there were Greek Catholic. The Soviet policy and the Ukrainian policy is that they are Orthodox, and all the churches which were not closed were turned Orthodox, and Orthodox priests were there, and a lot of Greek Catholic priests got arrested and sent to Siberia, and some stopped performing services. They just lived as lay people. Now it is after Ukraine became independent, it became allowed to be Greek Catholic. But for 50 years, people have been Orthodox, and there are huge battles in villages. Who the only church in the village should belong to? On one hand, it should belong to Greek Catholic because the cemetery is Greek Catholic, and my parents are Greek Catholic, were buried there, and I also want to be buried there, and I don't want it to be Orthodox. On the other hand, it has been Orthodox for 50 years. So people, in many villages, people end up in building the second church. So this is the second church in this village. The other one is built out of stone for like 100 years ago. Right now, those religious issues, at least in the villages I visited, are already less bitter. People say hello to each other. People invite each other to weddings and stuff. But before it was real. So, and gender issues are also totally different there from what you can imagine. And so this lady is a mother of 6, and she got widowed at the age of So she was left with her 6 kids and her husband, and she told me how difficult it was for her, because all the works like making hay, it is hard physical work, and a woman can do something, but it is very hard for her to do everything. And if she asks other people, they sometimes they ask money, and sometimes they ask something different, and they like there is no one to protect her, and every man who is helping her believes that she is open for these advances, and her life was real hard. And she told me about her third neighbor, like 3 houses from her. The lady also was a widow. She was raped by one of her cohort, and she wanted to have an abortion, but she didn't decide on that because it was a sin. And she ended up having another kid. She had like 3 kids, and it was her 4th daughter. And now she said she was telling to my informant that she was real happy because this girl is the only one who lives nearby with her family and who takes care of her and who helps her around and who will hopefully take her up when the lady will be old and will not be able to work. So, so husband is a necessity in the household. Husband is a necessity for protection. So the families there are well stable compared to other Ukraine. In Ukraine, almost 50% of marriages, 47-something%, people get divorced. Here, 26%, like twice this. So these people have been together for 65 years. The lady is 90, the man is 88. So, and they are a good family though they say, yes, like when you live together for 65 years, all can happen, but like we're together, and but they have several kids, as most people this age, but I've seen their daughter with her husband, and it is a much less idyllic picture because her husband is a bad drunk. He not only searches for any opportunity to get drunk, he is crazy when he's drunk, he starts fights, he ended up in the police several times. And they didn't tell me anything about it, but I've been talking to them when their daughter and husband came visiting, and they started treating me, and the guy immediately became crazy. And she was so tense about him, and you could see it's her habitual attitude, like she's very nervous, she's very tense. What other stupid thing he will do or he will say. Like finally she managed to shoot him from the place where we were having a meal. And it was a terrible impression. And later I asked the people where I stayed, like, why doesn't she, of course we know her, like we know everyone in the village. Why doesn't she take a divorce? Well, how? It's a shame. Why is it a shame? It is so hard to live with such a husband. He's unpredictable, you don't know. But if she gets a divorce, and she lives in a small town nearby, if she gets a divorce, like people will not trust her. And her business, she's a store owner. Her business might decline. And her children, if they need to get married, it will be much harder for them to find a partner to get married to, because the first thing they look at, the other side parents look at, is family. If the family is okay, if they are not divorced, and even if the father is a terrible drunkard, it is still better that when they split. So traditional values, well, they're strange for us. And this is my landlady's granddaughter, and there is a lot of children generally in Transcarpathia. The family situation is good. It has the highest percentage of Ukrainian oblast regions of kids under 15. so there are a lot of kids. Though the teachers continually say that the schools are declining, there is less and less kids at school, but still there is a lot. And this is again this girl with her mother and elder sister, and in this family there are 3 kids. So this lady I stayed with had 2 children. This is her daughter, and she also had a son. The daughter has 3 children, the son has 2. So the population is not declining at all, it's growing, and the lady is a school teacher. Her daughter is a doctor, and the daughter's husband is also a doctor, so it's an intelligent family. Still, they have 3 kids, and it's good. They say it's good. And family, and basically they, and their parents from the village help them with everything. They bring them potatoes, they bring them milk, they bring them eggs, or whatever they grow on their land, they send to them. Because the children need to first feed and educate and clothe the kids, and then they need to build a house. And they're building a house, and the cycle goes on. So, but between the generations, the guys are also very strong. This lady was a child at the time of the war, and she was orphaned. Her mother died, and she stayed with her father, with her brother who was 16, and with her younger sister who was 6, and she herself was 12. So she was the main person in the house. Her father was earning money, and she was doing everything. She was baking bread, she was cooking, she was taking care of a little girl. She was spinning and weaving to clothe everybody because there was no cloth to buy this job. And her father didn't want to remarry because he didn't want a stepmother for the kids. And later, when she grew up and got married, she took her father in her home, and she was providing him until his death, because like she felt obliged. He did so much for her and for her sister and brother. So she thought it was the right thing. And that's how the vertical ties between generations work. And this is, do you see, it is this 90-year-old lady, and what she's wearing on her feet is the traditional footwear. Before it was made out of pig skin, now it's made out of, what is it, in the camera, in the wheel, what do you call it? It is the inner rubber, which is thinner. So why? Her daughter has a store. He could have bought whatever she wanted. She just doesn't want. Her foot ache, they're kind of swollen, and it's much more convenient, much better to wear traditional. And in many aspects, it is much more convenient to be traditional in these places. So this Transcarpathia has the biggest rural population, in the percentage of rural population in Ukraine, and the rural population is growing. I think it's the only place in Ukraine where the rural population is growing and the city population. So they hold on to their tradition, this tradition or the tradition of family or their church tradition. So that's what I wanted to tell. Any questions? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there is a possible solution for the church problem in Germany. In the 30 Years' War in Augsburg, there was a regulation that Catholics and Lutherans could use the same church building at different times. And then there was even written in that Protestant goats were not to graze too close to the church when the Catholic service was going on. And this was called parity. And so my old professor Gerhardt in St. Louis used to say you would have Protestant pigs and Catholic pigs, and everything was regulated.
They tried there. In some villages they did that for some time, but then like if one priest would move the things in the altar, like it would be a scandal. So no, most of them, most of the villages I visited ended up to church.
But you have union churches here with married
This
priests?
is Greek Catholic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this one in the midst there is a Greek Catholic church.
I have general questions. And which rayon is it? Like, how many rayons in Transcarpathia do you use?
See, 15 or 18, I don't remember exactly.
Oh, the photos you provided, it's from mountaineer part of Transcarpathia.
This is from the more to the valley, the climate there is better, and it is, it's Eshava. And the previous ones were Eshava and Vizhgiria.
Not the most wealthiest part.
Eshava is really rich. Vizhgiria is not.
And in what language did you conduct interviews? In Russian?
Russian.
In Russian? Really?
Yeah.
So,
Well, when you do linguistics, that's what you have to do. You record the text, then you write it down, you transcribe it, and then you try to ask people the questions, putting together the words you just transcribed. And if you do it wrong, you are lucky because they correct you.
it's really something like a Russian language, because sometimes in Transcarpathia, even people from different rayons do not understand that exactly. Just the rules are so different.
They do, they do. Actually, I was talking to a lady from Vizhgiria who by accident took a wrong bus, and she was going towards Uzhhorod, where like the language is real different. And she goes, I heard they didn't sound like our people, but I could understand everything they were saying. There are inside Transcarpathia, inside the Russian language, there are some simple rules to calculate the difference and to translate it into your version.
But you still regard it as a language. Because
I do think it's a language because the differences between different districts within Transcarpathia are much less than the difference between Transcarpathia and say the remote parts of the Lviv area. There is the Boyko area in the Lviv district, which is similar to Transcarpathia, but everything else that was under Poland is totally different.
And the second question, more general, about like we see here pretty traditional landscape, and people really stick to their traditions and old values that held them to sustain. There is other part of this equation. What about modernizing drive, both of the Soviet period and post-1991? Like, we have these all huge families, and as I understood, the ratio of the mobility is pretty high. People go abroad, both Russia and in Europe. So, what about modernizing features of this? Because it's really looks pretty like traditional and
let me find
ideally
modern this Prague style house. Like when I was going through Slovakia, like most houses were like that, like with beautiful whitewashed walls and flowers and blah blah. This looks as a modern house, and like the windows are European windows that you turn and open. And I told you there is a bath with sewage there, so it is. They try to import civilization in their houses, whatever they can, but not around.
and
They
the family
modernize
ties.
their piece of land.
Okay, I mean, family ties, people who probably, not all people living in a village. So, going to the city, so what about these linkages and ties between people who are in the
This
cities?
family, the lady with 3 kids, the young lady with 3 kids, she lives in a town, in Vizhgiria, in the district center. But she works as a doctor there, but she, her parents bring her stuff from the village, and she goes to the village every now and then, and she helps them with the field work. So the ties are real close. And when her parents will not be able to work anymore, that will be a huge question, because she might, and I've seen such families, the children who live in the cities want to give their parents to the city. The parents wouldn't. They say that we grew here, we know everything and everyone here, what are we going to do there? And they stay there like until no one can bring the local grandparents. More questions?
You said that the language they speak there is very different from like a typical Ukrainian. So do you think, could you give us an example of like how you would say something in like both languages just to kind of illustrate that difference? I mean, if you can think of like one that works off the top of your head.
Десь ходив. Куди ти ходив?
How did you say this?
Десь ходив. Колись прийшов. And funny. Like one of the features which strike strike a linguist who viewed Ukrainian and Russian, they have the U, which is Russian, but they pronounce it slightly differently. Or Ruba versus like Hadit. So, and there's a lot of features. Some vocabulary items are similar to Russian and not Ukrainian. Like they say звезда and not звезда. And some things are totally different from everything because when a language is for 1,000 years confined to a small place, it starts developing its own rules. It's different. And for example, the word for horse in Ukrainian is kini, and Transcarpathian is kuni or kuni.
What about Russian language influences? Because like sometimes in Western Ukraine even, I mean Soviet experience, in Western Ukraine, like in Lviv, people use Russian words and they didn't imagine they use Russian words and they just pronounce it in Ukrainian way, like звездочка. Okay.
Yeah, the influence is not Russian because Russia is too far away. It is Hungarian, Polish, Romanian, and even the what do they call the Vlach people who were traveling with their herds on the Balkans and the Carpathian Ridge. They brought some terminology there. So I don't know, for example, when they put together a herd of sheep and goats, and that stays for the whole summer in the mountains, it's called maradik, and it's a Hungarian word meaning it stays. And many vocabulary items are borrowed from those languages. That's why the mainland Ukrainians say your language is so garbaged up. Because they don't understand not only the simple words but the general vocabulary.
My question was about like Russian influence. It's not the distance between Transcarpathia and Russia. It's like actual presence of Russians and Russian language as official language during the 50 years.
Ukrainian. Russian language was the official language in a handful of Hungarian villages on the Vassar. There they didn't learn Ukrainian at all. They spoke Hungarian to each other and they learned Russian at schools, Russian and Ukrainian. Everywhere else, the language of the school was Ukrainian, the official language was Ukrainian. So they basically moved to language.
I mean, army, and when you're going to earn money in Russia, you don't speak Ukrainian, you don't speak you speak Russian.
The men who went to the army know how to speak Russian, but when they come home, they do not even try to speak Russian because, in the village, they don't even try to speak mainland Ukrainian because people would make fun of them, saying, "Why the heck you're talking like the radio?" To your people, you speak your language. When you're talking to an official in a city, in a town, you can start talking Ukrainian. But when you feel that he or she is not that straight, you may switch to your village dialect and they would understand. And maybe even it can facilitate your transaction. It is a huge social linguistical issue. I didn't go into it too deep because it's not exactly my field, but Ukrainian influence is there. Russian influence is there. The language gets influenced either in the situation of contact, which was not the case, or when it is like conquered and all the conquerors speak that language, but like the conquerors spoke Ukrainian.
pop culture, Russian songs?
Well, they can sing Russian songs with a terrible accent, but when we talk to your neighbors and friends, you don't sing Russian pop songs to them.
What do they sing? Like, what do the young people sing? What's their culture?
They say that nowadays people don't sing that much. But before, when they used to go to the field, they would sing. Or when they used to spin in the house, they would sing. When they used to do anything, they would sing. Not anymore. The elder people go. Now, even in the weddings, they sing those terrible songs, boom, boom, boom. One lady said, there is a song. I went to a wedding. They were singing a song. And the lyrics went, I had a horse without a leg. What kind of song is that? About a horse without a leg. There are traditional songs, and people sing them sometimes, but they start to forget them. I recorded some songs there 25 years ago. Like, I returned to this village, and I mentioned that my informant who's dance sang this and that. You know this song, and I have forgotten, an elderly lady goes, and I have already forgotten it. Could you sing it to me? She asks me to sing her folk song from her. Yes.
I have a question about the connection to other Muslim communities outside of Ukraine and Slovenia. Were there any family connections? And also, did those sort of cross-border connections facilitate the illegal aspect of what they were doing if they were going illegally or bringing goods in?
There are family connections because after the war, people were allowed to more or less free move, and some of them preferred to go to Slovakia. And some of my informants have. They visit each other, but in the second and third generations, the ties are weaker. And about illegal, it is mostly not done by family. There are people who are called, strangely enough, called clients. They are clients, they're like bosses who have connections, who do the illegal visas and passports and who collect people to work and provide housing and work there. But usually it's the family.
Are there any sex trafficking on those people? Because they always talk.
No one I talked to mentioned it. Sorry.
No, that's good.